Let's call it what it is, a bombshell. The kind of moment that makes you pause mid-sentence and wonder, did he just say what I think he said? That's exactly where we find ourselves now that Stephen A. Smith has officially called it. The Browns used a bogus injury, allegedly an oblique, to suppress Shedeur Sanders' right when the kid was ready to explode. The credentials don't matter here, the tone does. Stephen A. isn't a guy who ties his words in knots. When he speaks, the media listens, and this isn't speculation anymore. It's a full-on accusation. This isn't about health concerns. This is about protecting the narrative. Let's break this down.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Layer by dramatic layer. 1. Sanders' debut, the spark that threatened the franchise script. Shedeur comes in, fresh rookie uniform, and absolutely lights it up. Commanding the offense, making sharp reads, converting under pressure, the kind of performance that makes every play feel highlight reel ready. And just like that, the conversation shifts. NFL Twitter melts. Analysts gush. He's everywhere. And guess what that does? It destabilizes the script. Because for years, everyone in Cleveland's quarterback room has been playing according to a timeline. Shedeur wasn't supposed to be QB1 or QB2 for at least 2 preseason games, maybe longer. This was supposed to be slow-cooked progress, not a viral performance. 2. The fake injury, the masterstroke of delay. Now, here's where the story gets twisted, and this is where Stephen doesn't hesitate. According to him, that oblique injury? Not serious. Not legitimate. Just enough of a pause to cool the hype. From a PR standpoint, it's genius. Rookies hurt, folks. Let's be patient. But from a leadership and fairness standpoint, totally ridiculous. You bench your most inspired, productive player, and fake the excuse just to keep the peace with the status quo. That's not development. It's narrative suppression. 3. Protecting grit, protecting ego, protecting contracts. Now add politics into the mix. Cleveland's deepest problem isn't defense. It's this quarterback hierarchy built on reputations, contract expectations, and the belief that structures talent. You have veterans like Joe Flacco, contracts to honor, reputations to maintain. Insert Shedeur, and everyone's chessboard changes. If you put Shedeur in the rotation, all those pawn lines collapse. What happens to the veteran starter? How does it look if a rookie trains for a day and gets the nod over 5-year contracts? This is where narrative control becomes territory control. You protect the invested players by slowing the kid down. You manage his appearances. And anything else? You dismiss as too early. Stephen sets the record straight. Stephen didn't use softballs. He didn't couch it in maybe or some say. He said it. They're afraid of the avalanche Shedeur brings. He's too much, too fast. So they pull the rug, or in this case, call in an injury. When Stephen says it, it doesn't go viral. It explodes. All of a sudden, what looked like conservative coaching now looks like manipulation. What looked like patience looks like protectionism. 5. Fans are on board, they smell the cover-up. This isn't just a media angle anymore. Fans are seething. Because they see the plays. They see the commands on the field. A quarterback walking into tight windows, picking apart defenses, not because he's flashy, but because he's composed. Watching him work while Gabriel sputters? That contrast hurts. And when the Browns refuse to acknowledge it, even with all the evidence in front of them, fans stop trusting. They brush aside press releases. They interrogate interviews. They demand accountability. That's when the snowball becomes an avalanche. 6. The bigger implication, narrative versus merit. This is no longer just a quarterback situation. This is a case study in narrative versus merit. In protect the hierarchy versus reward production. In control the script versus let results speak. And guess what? The old playbook doesn't work in 2025. The league has changed. Fans have changed. Players are no longer playing by the invisible rules set decades ago. Social media, branding, early hype, they all propel players past the merely talented. You don't just coach that quality. You embrace it, or you watch it walk away. So here we are. Steven blew the whistle. He didn't tiptoe. He dropped the mic. Now it's up to the Browns. Do you protect outdated dogma? Or do you embrace the story and the player who's rewriting it? Shedeur Sanders has taken that field and claimed the moment. The question now isn't whether he'll start. The question is, will Cleveland have the guts to let him? Let's not pretend we didn't see this coming. The moment Shedeur Sanders stepped onto that preseason field and dropped dimes like he'd been in the league for 5 years, something shifted. You felt it. I felt it. The fans in the stadium felt it. The entire NFL media machine felt it, and so did the Cleveland Browns. That's when the alarms started going off. Not because of a busted coverage. Not because of an injury. But because a rookie quarterback made it impossible to stick to the plan. And that's where the trouble really begins. See, when you've got a player like Shedeur, calm, confident, precise, already built like a franchise QB, it doesn't just mess with your depth chart. It messes with your infrastructure. The Browns had a roadmap. It didn't include a viral rookie performance in the second week of preseason. It didn't account for highlight reels, national coverage, or, God forbid, Stephen A. Smith putting them on blast at 9 a.m. But that's exactly what happened. And instead of adjusting, instead of adapting, the Browns panicked. They pulled the oldest card in the NFL PR handbook, the mystery injury. A tight oblique. Day-to-day. Nothing serious. Just enough to explain why Shedeur, fresh off 2 surgical touchdown drives, is now sitting behind quarterbacks who can barely complete a drive without self-destructing. Now, maybe that kind of explanation would have flown 10 years ago. Maybe fans would have shrugged, said, he's young, and waited it out. But this is not 2013. This is 2025. The fans are smarter. The media is louder. The film is public. There is nowhere to hide. So when you drop a performance like Shedeur's and then suddenly vanish from practice with no limp, no rap, no treatment on the sideline, people are going to start asking questions. And when those questions start snowballing into theories, that's when you get Stephen Smith lighting up national television with 5 words that flipped the narrative upside down. They're scared of Shedeur. He didn't say they're protecting him. He didn't say he needs time. He said flat out, the Browns are afraid. Afraid of what he represents. Afraid of what he might force them to confront. And he's not wrong. Let's talk about the unspoken truth here. This isn't just about quarterback play. It's about control. Teams, especially old-school organizations like the Browns, like to set the tempo. They decide when a player gets called up, when they get praise, when the media starts building them up. It's all about managing the moment, keeping a lid on it. But Shedeur? He doesn't wait for permission. His play blew the lid off before the Browns were ready. And instead of riding the wave, they tried to put it back in the bottle. They failed. Now they're scrambling, hiding behind vague statements, releasing depth charts that make 0 sense, giving practice reps to guys who were outplayed on national television. The whole thing is starting to feel like a bad PR skit, like they're stalling, hoping this whole Shedeur mania will die down. Spoiler, it won't. Because people aren't just invested in Sanders because of the numbers. They're invested because of the feeling. He brings hope, energy, swagger without the ego. And most importantly, he brings results. Something Cleveland hasn't had at quarterback since ever? You don't sit that on the bench and pretend it's strategy. You do that because you're scared of what happens next if you let him cook. Scared of losing control of the depth chart. Scared of veterans getting embarrassed. Scared of headlines you didn't write. Let's not ignore the Deion Sanders factor either. You've got a rookie QB whose dad is literally one of the most iconic sports figures alive. Deion's not just famous, he's influential. He controls media cycles with a tweet. He makes college programs look like Fortune 500 companies. So yeah, the Browns may have thought they were drafting just another QB prospect. But what they actually brought in was a media empire with cleats on. And that's where the real fear sets in. Because if Shedeur takes over that starting job, and let's be honest, he's earned at least a shot, the media spotlight on Cleveland shifts forever. Every bad call gets amplified. Every sideline reaction from Shedeur becomes a debate topic. Every quote from Dion becomes a situation. Some franchises are built for that. The Browns? Historically, not so much. So what do you do if you're not ready for the spotlight, but the spotlight's already here? Apparently, you fake an injury and hope it buys you a week. It's such a transparent move that even the analysts who usually play nice are starting to snap. You've got former players questioning the injury on podcasts. You've got local reporters saying they've seen Sanders look fine during warm-ups. You've got teammates, off the record, saying they don't understand what's happening. And all Stefanski can offer is a shrug and a canned response about trusting the process. Here's the problem with that. The process is supposed to reward performance. When a guy plays lights out, earns the trust of his teammates, energizes the fan base, and actually looks like he's built for this league, you don't bury him. You build around him. Instead, the Browns are fumbling one of the rarest things you can find in the NFL: momentum. You can't coach momentum. You can't manufacture it. And you definitely can't replicate it with a clipboard and a good attitude. When a young player catches fire, you ride it. Because if you don't, you lose the locker room. You lose the fans. And eventually, you lose the player. And that might be the most dangerous part of all. Because the Browns are acting like they can string Shedeur along. Sit him. Hype him quietly. Control the rollout. But what happens when another team comes knocking? What happens when a team that's not afraid of the noise, say the Rams or the Falcons, decides they want to build a franchise around a guy who's already shown more poise than half the league's backups? You really think Shedeur's going to stay in Cleveland if they keep treating him like a PR problem instead of the best thing to happen to the team in a decade? Good luck. Because stars like Shedeur don't wait around. They don't beg. They don't ask for permission. They walk. And when they walk, they don't just leave a hole. They leave a legacy of what could have been. And right now, Cleveland is writing that legacy in real time. So yeah, Steven dropped the bomb. But the fuse was already lit the moment Shedeur dropped back in the pocket and made that first crisp sideline throw. The Browns saw it. The world saw it. And now? They're trying to act like it didn't happen. Too late. The tape doesn't lie. The fans don't forget. And the story? It's already bigger than them. Because if you think this saga is anywhere near cooling off, think again. The Browns thought they could pump the brakes on Shedeur Sanders, sweep his moment under the rug with some clever depth chart gymnastics and a tight oblique, but the internet doesn't forget. NFL fans aren't dumb. And Shedeur Sanders? He's not the kind of player who fades quietly into the background just because someone in a polo shirt tells him to. Let's stop pretending this is just a QB competition. Let's stop calling it a preseason development plan. Let's call it what it is. A cover-up. A full-on, eyes closed, fingers in the ears, maybe if we wait long enough he'll go away, campaign to keep a rising star from completely detonating the very foundation of Cleveland's quarterback plans. And here's the kicker, they're losing that campaign one play at a time. Because every rep Shedeur takes in practice, even if he's technically limited, turns heads. Every behind-the-scenes clip of him in the QB room, cool as ever, reminds people, oh yeah, he's him. And every single time another quarterback goes out there and fumbles a drive, throws an ill-timed pick, or can't move the chains on 3rd and 5, the pressure multiplies. What are we doing here, honestly? What exactly are the Browns trying to accomplish? You've got Shedeur Sanders, a rookie with better pocket presence than some veterans, who's shown he can lead 2-minute drills, convert red zone drives, and galvanize a fan base in real time, and your strategy is to put him behind not one, not two, but 3 quarterbacks? 2 of whom couldn't generate more buzz in Cleveland if they lit fireworks on the 50-yard line? No disrespect to those guys. But the tape doesn't lie. And the buzz? The buzz chooses its subject. You don't fake that. You don't control that. You can only roll with it, or get buried by it. And right now, Kevin Stefanski is doing the exact thing you don't do when the football gods give you a gift. He's hesitating. He's overthinking it. He's playing politics. He's trying to maintain structure in a room that's already been torn apart by reality. The minute Shedeur put on that helmet and looked more composed than any Browns rookie in a decade, the hierarchy collapsed. Not because he said anything. Not because he asked for it. But because that's what talent does. It forces your hand. The team knows it too. You can feel it in the way the offensive line responds to him. You can see it in how the receivers run sharper routes. You can hear it in the subtle tone shifts during pressers, those little smirks when Shedeur's name gets brought up. This isn't just hype. This is internal energy building toward a breaking point. But Stefanski, like a man trying to duct tape a sinking ship, keeps smiling through it. We're being cautious. He's day-to-day. We like what we're seeing from all our guys. And I like sunshine in November, but that doesn't make it real. Let's not forget the biggest reason this cover-up feels so calculated: timing. Shedeur drops a near-flawless preseason performance. Composed, surgical, clutch, and then poof. He's injured. Doesn't practice. Doesn't dress for the next game. No MRI. No second opinion. Just whispers and sideline glances and a whole lot of "we'll see." You can't write fiction this transparent. And when Stephen A. Smith, a guy who lives for these moments, goes on live television and straight up says it's a setup, you've lost the plot. And the audience. Because this isn't just about a player anymore. It's about trust. Fans are watching how the Browns handle this, and they're already skeptical after years of QB chaos. Remember, this is the franchise that built a literal jersey with every failed quarterback name scratched out in Sharpie. That's not just a meme. That's trauma. So when they finally get someone who looks like the real deal, and the team starts pulling strings to hide him, that's not just disappointing. It's triggering. And now they're playing with fire. Because it's not just the fans and media turning the heat up. It's the locker room. NFL players don't care about draft status. They don't care about politics. They care about who helps them win. Period. If you're a receiver and the only QB who's hitting you in stride is sitting on the bench for developmental reasons, how long before you start asking questions? And when the locker room's confidence shifts away from the starter, the whole thing falls apart. You think it's hard coaching with the media on your back? Try coaching with 52 guys looking at you like you're wasting their season. Shedeur didn't ask for this chaos. He's just the match. The Browns lit the fuse the second they tried to bottle him up. And let's be honest, this whole injury thing? It's not fooling anybody. Because if you're actually injured, you don't warm up at full speed. If you're actually injured, you don't take scout team reps. And if you're really injured, your coach doesn't dodge the question every time someone asks for an update. This is less about an oblique strain and more about a narrative strain. The Browns are trying to stretch a story that stopped making sense 2 weeks ago, and now it's unraveling in front of everyone. So what happens next? Well, one of two things. Option 1, they cave to pressure, admit the injury was overblown, and start giving Shedeur the reps he's earned. They take the PR hit now but regain credibility, and maybe salvage the season by putting the best player under center. Option 2, they double down. Keep rolling with Gabriel. Keep treating Shedeur like a long-term project. Keep losing fans, confidence, and control of the room, until it all blows up mid-season. You don't have to be a genius to see which path leads to headlines and which leads to history. Because one day, people are going to look back on this moment and ask, how did the Browns almost screw up Shedeur Sanders? And the answer might be painfully simple. They got scared. Scared of the spotlight. Scared of the pressure. Scared of what it would mean to actually change the plan for once. But here's the thing about stars. They don't wait for permission. And if the Browns can't see what they have in Shedeur, someone else will. And by the time Cleveland realizes what they let walk out the door, the only oblique pain they'll be dealing with is the one they gave themselves. This kid doesn't just walk with confidence, he walks like someone who's already seen the future. And the future? It's not 3 spots down behind a turnover-prone backup and a placeholder veteran. It's under the lights, on the field, calling the shots while Cleveland finally looks like a team with a quarterback that knows what he's doing. But instead, the Browns are acting like they've got all the time in the world. Like they can afford to wait this out. Like they've got some kind of luxury to delay greatness because they're trying to protect feelings or worse, control a narrative. The problem is the clock isn't ticking, it's booming. Every day Shedeur doesn't get reps, the tension builds. Every post-game presser where Stefanski says, "We like where Shedeur's at," while giving Gabriel another drive to throw a pick in the red zone? It's insulting. To fans. Teammates. And let's be real, to Shedeur himself. Because this man didn't show up to play politics. He showed up to win. He's already done the talking, just not with words. With reads. With footwork. With cool under pressure. With 2 touchdown drives that turned a meaningless preseason game into a national headline. That's not hype, that's production. That's something you reward, not something you try to manage. And the more the Browns try to manage Shedeur, the more obvious it becomes that they're in over their heads. Let's say what everyone's thinking. If Shedeur was a 3rd-round pick with no last name, this wouldn't even be a debate. He'd be QB2 minimum. Maybe even QB1 by now, especially with the way Gabriel has looked in live reps. But because he comes with heat, because he's Deion Sanders' son, because he's got a Nike deal, because he's already trending on NFL TikTok before week 1, they're scared. Scared of giving in to the hype. Scared of media frenzy. Scared of looking like they didn't plan this. But here's the thing. Sometimes greatness doesn't come according to plan. Sometimes it walks into the building, wins over the locker room, silences the media with execution, and makes it impossible to ignore. And when that happens, you don't hide it behind a phantom oblique injury. You don't bury it at QB4. You put it on the field, hand it the keys, and let it cook. Because if the Browns don't, they won't just lose games. They'll lose Shedeur. And maybe, just maybe, they'll lose the locker room too.